Thursday night, 7 o'clock, the Garnet and Old show. No inside info, no contacts, no problem. I'm Ryan, that's Vince. How are you today, Vince?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited tonight, Ryan. I've adjusted our graphic here a little bit for tonight. We usually propose that we have no contacts, but we're occasionally we get some people that want to spend some time with us, and tonight is one of those nights. So thank you, everybody that's tuning into the show tonight. I think we're going to have a great conversation. And if you want some great fishing, some great charter fishing, you should go contact Captain John Black, who is a Nole. He is a former chief, and he is a charter captain in Panama City Beach, Florida. And he has graciously outfitted the studios here. So go see Captain John Black. Tell him that Garnet and Old sent you.
I want to give a quick shout out to the people, normal people in the chat, supporters, Brett Taylor, Doug Rohan, Mr. Rohan Law, and Breeze in Georgia hopping in the chat. We're going to have a lot more joining. But Vince, why don't you introduce our guest, our guest of the night, which is super exciting. And I'll pull you in here, Steven, while Vince apparently went offline randomly. So all good there. So Mr. Stephen Ponder, head of the Boosters, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on. I don't know where Vince went.
No, that's all right. It looks like he just randomly dropped out. Internet things happen, but no problem. I got you, sir. So really excited to have you on the show. I will say that from all intents and purposes, everything we've seen from the booster communication to the renovations to all the stuff that is moving towards, really competing with the best of the best in the conference. You guys have been doing a fantastic job. So I just want to say again, thank you for joining the show. Tell everyone, just to start off, tell everyone what your day-to-day job is and what it means to represent the Seminole Boosters.
That's a great question. It's different every day, but I want to say one thing that you referenced there about the project. The stadium project really started in 2020 when Michael Alford was in this seat, working with David Coburn at the time. And then, Michael, obviously from a vision standpoint with the stadium and seeing what was coming. So it's been a 5-year project that, our staff has been heavily involved with, is obviously in the trying to talk to people face to face about the project. So we can talk more about that later, but I just, it's those things don't happen overnight. And so I just want to give credit to, everybody that's been involved with that. My day-to-day honestly looks a little bit different every single day. The thing I love about my job is the variety. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy talking to people, and I really enjoy hearing everyone's story about how they are intertwined with FSU and why they support Florida State athletics through Seminole Boosters. Seminole Boosters has a great history, and so it's just kind of cool to be in this. But day to day, we're you mentioned communications. We've got different areas of our staff where we're, from a fundraising standpoint, from an events, stewardship, marketing. There's all kind of things that go on right now. We're obviously heavily involved in single game ticket sales, talking to boosters. So I think every day for us is really different, and it gives you a wide variety.
Yeah, absolutely. And myself being a proud booster member for many years, season ticket holder, I can tell you that the work has not gone unnoticed. And I would go to say that the changes have been refreshing as of late in the last year or so, because there was a few, last year, and I'm not going to shy too far away from it. There was some issues early in the season. I think most of the things got ironed out as the season went on, but I can see the effort being put in to improve the experience for Seminole Boosters,
right,
and really starting to see the value proposition come through, and it's been exciting. So the topic du jour right now going into this season obviously is the renovations. A lot going on from the stadium to the football only facility. What has it been like to see that kind of come together from just the planning phase all the way through now? I mean, it's almost go time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, our staff, we had a staff call this morning, and we've talked about it. Like there's different phases in this from a staff standpoint. Because back to your point about getting into it, the stadium project itself is awesome. It's going to be great for Florida State football. It's going to be great for Florida State to put our best foot forward. In the middle, and part of the way we chose to go about talking to everybody was face to face, which delayed communication, and it caused some misinformation and no information to be out there for some. And so I think that part was hard in trying to go through, but we wanted to talk to everybody face to face. We know there are some people that don't really like the renovation because they wanted the stadium to stay exactly like it was and have the pricing like it was and the seating like it was. And I do understand that. But obviously we made the decision to move forward as is, and we're really excited about it. And back to your question, it is exciting to see what's a picture, like, we saw earlier, to see that literally what's on that webcam starting to look just like the picture. And when we do take people through the stadium and they see what's coming, they're like, oh, I see it now. And so it is going to provide a lot of new experiences for people to experience, Florida State football in a different way than they have before. And it is exciting to watch it just come to life, really.
Yeah. I would say, in the long run, people can, have their frustrations about, of course, you remember growing up, what Doak has looked like your entire life, but nothing can stay the same. And I can speak from my own perspective, sitting at home watching games on an 80-inch TV, right? And if the same old experiences never change in game at Doak Campbell Stadium, then people will start to say, well, why am I going to make the trip to Tallahassee? And the reason is now we have different levels of experience. If you don't want to just sit on the flat bleachers, you want a little bit more comfort, hey, get the chairback seats. If you want a little bit more comfort beyond that, hey, head up to some of the Champions Club and get yourself some food and some AC. And so I think this has been a really smart move to offer multiple different levels of game day watch experiences, whereas before it was just sit in the heat and melt. I mean, that was the only answer, 10 years ago, right? So I think you guys have done a really, really nice job. But walking into the stadium, the first game, Alabama, Labor Day weekend, it's going to be huge. The secondary ticket market's going crazy for that game. Hotels sold out. What should people expect? Differences, not just in the, hey, we all seen the pictures from the outside, but from the inside, from the concessions to the entry experience.
Yeah, I think the entire staff, Florida State Athletics and Seminole Boosters, have worked really hard to make sure that, the idea of door to door, from your door to our door, and then when you go home, that the entire experience be mapped out. So what the parking is going to be like, how to get to my parking spot from a traffic standpoint, all of that. In game, there were a lot of talk last year about in game, what that experience looks like. And I know that the athletic staff is working very hard on what that looks like with the new video boards and what we're putting on there. But obviously the marching chiefs, I don't think there's anything like the marching chiefs at a football game or quite frankly any event. But when they play, it just gives you, kind of gives you chills. So with a sold out packed house game with Alabama, new stadium, excitement, I think when you walk around the concourses, much wider, restrooms are different, especially on the west side. But even on the east side, there was a ton of work done underneath to clean it up. And last year, obviously, we put those seat caps on to find seats. So I think, while some areas might not be as new as others, the entire stadium has gotten a refresh all around. And, there's restrooms and concessions on that west side. People can go on that concourse. You don't have to sit over there to enjoy that. So people in the south end can go over there. There's a new bar in that corner that people can go down and get something to drink and just enjoy a new perspective, especially underneath the stadium. So I think, again, the entire experience will be a little different. And obviously, everybody always talks about, obviously, what happens on the field matters. And we know that as much as anybody.
Yeah.
So that we're not taking that lightly. And obviously, I know Coach is, he works his tail off. His staff does, the kids on putting the best product on the field and being able to compete nationally. So all of it coming together, I'm really excited about, and I really look forward to August 30th.
You answered some really good questions there, actually, some that I had not heard yet and I had questions about, which is, was there anything done to the east sideline underneath the concession area? And from what it sounds like, at least a cleanup and maybe kind of making it look a little nicer than it did. And then I did not know until just now you having this conversation that there won't be any kind of restriction going to the other side of the concourse. I had questions on whether that would be a change because of all the new areas, but really great to hear because my seats are right there in the end zone right underneath the Champions Club, and it's nice to know that I'll be able to go down and freely walk around and see the new areas without any kind of gates or showing tickets or anything like that. That's really great news.
Yeah, so on that west side, obviously that what you're looking at in that picture, that west side, field level club, obviously that's a area that you have to have a ticket to, but behind that concourse is freely flowing. So people can, go in there and, restrooms, concessions, et cetera. Back to the east side, that project started a couple of years ago. And so the entryways into the actual seating bowls, those ramps, how people access, and just a general cleanup. And I think from a concession standpoint, the way that people access, if it's coolers to go in and quickly get something to drink and those type things, those have been improved as well. So, just a general cleanup throughout the stadium.
Awesome. I'm going to tag Vincent here. He's back.
Yeah. I was on my third system here to get back in. So luckily I'm here, and hopefully it will not kick me out again. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Stephen, was this is a monumental thing, not just Doak, but all of the projects. I'm sure there were a lot of challenges along the way. There's logistical challenges, there's financial challenges, there's just there's tradition challenges. To you, how do you meet those, and which ones do you think were the toughest ones to kind of tackle?
That's a great question. I mean, I think they're all equally important for different reasons. I was speaking to someone today that came and got a tour of our baseball stadium, and we had a discussion about loyalty, how people attach loyalty as we talk about football season tickets versus American Airlines or Delta Airlines selling tickets. It's more expensive to fly than it used to be, but there's an emotional connection to what we do that's a little bit different. And so somebody who's been a season ticket holder for 40 years, 50 years, I totally understand the loyalty component of that and the emotional component. I don't think you can ever say that that's not the most important thing, because it is a real thing. We talk all the time about every booster that is a, Seminole fan or grad that is a booster. They all have a different story of why they support, how they support, what they like. And so they're not all the same. And even the people who don't really like the project, they've got their own story. It's just important. And again, as I said earlier, we're not always going to be able to satisfy those. We've got some people who haven't renewed their football tickets. We're not sure exactly why. We could assume they don't like the project, or they may not want to move to a 10-yard line seat because they've been sitting on the 30. Totally understand it. We hope that they'll come experience the stadium and check it out and say, you know what, I think I'm going to come back. So we hope they do that. So that is a challenge, but it's one that I would say it's probably paramount because you're dealing with people in that one. The financial challenges, the scheduling challenges, those are numbers, whereas the first one's not. It's people. And so now it doesn't mean that the financial challenges aren't hard. The stadium project itself, the way that we chose to sell it, it produces a certain amount of revenue, roughly $85 million. It's a $200 million project. So that's part of the equation. The sale of the tickets, the attendance to the game all impacts how that gets repaid. And so there's a huge pro forma that we put together for that. And then the scheduling from a construction standpoint, obviously we got a lot of experts that help us. Our owners rep, the Nations Group, they've done this all over the country. The construction companies that we have, Manhattan, they've done this at other places, and they partnered with Culpeper here locally. They're experts in construction, and so the three of them got together along with the university and really mapped out what this was going to look like well before they ever started the project. So the scheduling of it last year when we put in temporary seats, that was a discussion that happened the year prior. So all that's just time and math, really. So that stuff can get worked out. But obviously like I mentioned, the hardest one is for sure the human element related to history and tradition, related to people, the way they consume game day, and they are all important, but all handled totally different based on what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons, or one of the things that one of the reasons why there are so many Florida State shows, right? There's a passion around the program, the university, and so that's good, and we love that. But there are also some challenges from that too.
Right.
And I do think, as people, if they're going to choose not to renew for whatever reason, at some point there's going to be some FOMO, some fear of missing out, and then maybe someone will bring them to a game and they'll say, maybe this isn't such. It's kind of like when the logo changed. Right. It was a lot of heat about that, and there are still some holdouts, and I know a couple of them.
Right.
But most people have kind of transitioned there, and so I get that. And one of the things that surprised me was when it was announced that the project was not only on schedule, but probably ahead of schedule. You don't hear about that in the construction world. So congratulations on that.
Well, don't say that too loud, because our partners, we want them to know we got a deadline, so we got to go.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
I do appreciate that, because I think they worked very, very hard on their schedule. And as I said, they're experts in the field, and they work very hard to get everything timed. They went through a double shift, 24 hours a day, where they were putting concrete up at night, and then working on others. So there's a method to what they do and how they do it. But I think when you look at, and it's probably a little bit tied to this, but when you look at Florida State athletics, the fans, when we went out to Corvallis for baseball, I would sit there and I would look in the crowd, and you could pick out somebody pretty quick, because they weren't orange or black, and I'd go up and talk to them and like, hey, where do you live? And they're like, oh, I live in Seattle, or I live in Portland. And they came up for the game. And it was just cool to see, because it doesn't matter where we go, there are Noles there. We are everywhere. And, the number of alums we have obviously leads the ACC, over 400,000. But, half of the Seminole Boosters supporters did not go to Florida State. And so we have a huge network of people that just love Florida State. And, back to stories here, I went when I was a kid with my grandfather. So I just fell in love with Florida State. So for us, we are in a different market, I would say, than some schools, because the way people consume, and you mentioned the hotels are sold out and blocked out or booked. The hotel costs to come to a game in Tallahassee, there's no doubt they're expensive. When you go to other college towns, you don't feel that necessarily if you're going to Boston or you're going to Chicago for some areas. But when you come to a college town, you're going to feel that. We don't necessarily love that. Now, it's great for the local economy and great for them because they make their number during football weekends, but it also hurts some people from being able to attend. So that's why, we're, from a marketing standpoint, we've got a season ticket base, but we also, the last couple of days, have really been selling single game tickets, and we're trying to push that towards people who are boosters and season ticket holders to take care of them. But if you compare us to some other markets, and let's choose Clemson. If you're sitting in Clemson and people look at it and go, man, they're in a rural area, the fact is, when you get to Clemson's campus, it might be 45 minutes from Greenville. But from that campus, you can go 2.5 hours to the south or 2.5 hours to the north, and you go Charlotte to Atlanta. You got a lot of people that never have to buy a hotel to go to a football game.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas where we are, and I joke about this, and I don't mean it as literal as it sounds, but if two people were sitting right here and one drove to Miami and one drove north, you might get to Chicago quicker than you can get to Miami. Not literally, but it just shows where we are. So what we just announced this week about our market strategy, we're going to put more booster staff to cover markets and be in markets, because we do think it's a little bit different. We want to know everyone that's supporting, so that everyone that is a booster can call somebody and say, hey, I'm calling, pick the person, Kyle, or I'm going to call Javi because I know who to call. And then that way, if people can come to 2 games and they can't make season tickets, we get that. We want to provide that, but obviously we want to sell as many season tickets as we can, and just have this place be alive, which it will be every single game.
It will be
out, and it's going to be really exciting.
I do want to bring up, speaking of that, is big topic du jour this week. We've had a lot of emails and questions about it. You know, the announcement of a season-long ticket package that's $650, and it's kind of like you don't get to pick your seat, but it could be on the east side, you know, top 80th row. It could be on the west stands with a chair back.
Right.
So talk us through kind of how you guys came to that, you know, kind of decision, and what is the motivation and kind of thought process behind it? Because we've had a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, I would say that the reason that we're doing that is really goes back to experience. Again, Florida State, where we are, is a little bit different than some other places. And so for people who, y'all mentioned it as we got on, what the single game prices are for the Alabama game. Season ticket cost is much more affordable to buy season tickets than it is to go buy single game tickets to Alabama in certain areas.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things that we talk about while we're asking people probably to relocate from where they were traditionally. There are affordable options compared to what they used to pay, but they got to be willing necessarily to move. The Knoll Pass that we introduced really is to and it's probably targeted more to younger demographic of people who are like, you know what, I'll try it. Why not? That we have so many fans who are like, yeah, I'll buy that pass because it's better than buying single game tickets. I may not know until the week of, but it's kind of the same concept that you don't really know where you're going to sit, but I wouldn't know if I was buying single game either. And you can consume all the games and experience different seating options that you may normally not sit in. And you'll test different areas and see different things. But I do think it speaks to just the way people consume sports now. Certain group wants to be in a certain place. Obviously, premium seating for us, we kind of got a waiting list on some of that. But the other, we got so many people that want to come to the game, and we're like, hey, just try this. And so that's really the motivation, is just the mass number of people that can come. Why don't you try this and just move your seats accordingly to what we have available for those games. Obviously, the Alabama game and the Miami game are going to be the two that most people focus on from a single game standpoint. But we got some other great home games where people can enjoy and watch the Noles play.
I think it's a great idea, you know, to get some people involved that maybe are not ready to commit to a specific area in this area, or they don't necessarily know if that's the area they want to be in.
Or contribution.
So, that's right.
Yeah, and yeah, so it is. I mean, thinking about it, if I was younger and I didn't already have a commitment to the area that I like to sit in, that's probably the way I would do it.
Right.
You brought up a little bit ago about the new market strategy, and I got the email about that. And by the way, I'm going to say kudos with the communication because, you know, especially as the season gets closer, we're getting more communications, and the emails look great, and they're easy to read, and they're concise, and
text too.
And I'm a big proponent, because my eyes are going bad, that the text is easy to read. But can you talk about the market strategy? It wasn't really necessarily clear on what that means.
Yeah. So look, we've had staff in markets for over 10 years. And I can name who they are, but like Javi is in Miami. He does a great job in Miami and covers all of South Florida. We've got so many people that live in South Florida. Our first idea is we want to bring Tallahassee close to you. And so the same thing is true if you're in Naples and Fort Myers, or if you're in Atlanta or LA. And so those markets where we have staff, we're taking our current staff here in town. So they're going to live in Tallahassee, but they're going to be assigned to those markets. So now there'll be a team, Javi plus others.
Okay.
Same thing in Jacksonville. We're going to have Kyle plus others that'll be assigned to that market. That now they're all going to be focused on, let's say, a donor list from here to here. And let's just say, for example purposes, there's 1,500 people that are supporting that live in Jacksonville. Kyle's going to talk to a certain group, and then the rest of the staff, they're going to segment and talk to that group so that everybody in Jacksonville is talking to someone on our staff. And then when that group gets together with Kyle, then they're talking about it. Hey, I talked to Vince today. Maybe we ought to do this. He's interested in this. They're talking about the same people, and it's not such an individual approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Again, for us, Orlando and the Tampa area, Atlanta, for us, they're all growing. And we just want to reach out and literally take our office and move it there in a figurative way so that people who live in Atlanta feel like, man, y'all are right next door, because we really are. And that's the mindset. And again, if we were in a different part of the country, I don't know anybody else that's trying to approach it the way we are. There are some that might have a staff member in one location. For example, I can think of like Oregon. They've got somebody in Bend, Oregon, because they got a lot of people that live there. But we're, again, a little bit different. We're in 7 different markets where we've got staff. We've got now somebody that's going to be living in Dallas that's going to cover the entire Western United States for us. We have a staff member that was in Tallahassee. They're moving to Indiana. They're going to cover the East Coast for us. We got people in Atlanta that will cover North and South Carolina and Georgia for us. And again, we just want to make it, because the backbone of what we do, and I appreciate the comments about the communication, because our marketing staff does a great job of trying to target that information so that you get what you need. Emails are important, text messages are important, social media is important, but nothing replaces personal connection. And that's really the basis for the market teams, that we can extend our staff and every single booster say, I know somebody I can call.
Yep. Tallahassee and Florida State is, like you said, geographically unique. So having a program that's unique as well fits, right? So like you said, you don't know anybody else is doing it. It's because they don't have necessarily I would say, I'll use Coach Norvell, the opportunities that we have, right? We have an opportunity to do things differently. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we've done so much community outreach too. You're absolutely right about how many cities we're in, because we've done a bunch of watch parties in Jacksonville, which is where Vince is, and we've done partnered with local breweries and places that are in Jacksonville to do away game watch parties, and the following is just huge, and the amount of people that show up to these watch parties at these bar and grills and local establishments is immense. So if you can tap into that, I mean, that's the way to go.
That's exactly right. And so I agree with you, Vince. We're different, but that doesn't mean negative, because what I believe from coming here is Florida State fans are everywhere. Florida State fans have the ability to financially support at whatever level they can, and it all matters. And I know from a fundraising standpoint, we hear from some people sometimes, they're like, hey, my X number of dollars doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Every engagement and involvement matters, and all around the coast. I mean, there's not a free piece or a unclaimed piece of property around the coast of Florida. Somebody owns it, and we have people everywhere, and we just want to make sure that we're reaching all of those. And I think those watch parties that you're talking about are fantastic, and we want to get more there. We actually have staff sometimes when we have home games, they will go to those markets and they'll go to a watch party there, because they're seeing totally different group than they would if they came to a home game.
Yeah,
right.
I do like to wrap up, and this will be my final question for you, Stephen, and you've been really great, and then I'll let Vince kind of wrap us up here to respect your time. But I always like to end on a positive note, and kind of is there a fun moment or a fun story from the last year or two that you can tell us that really made you smile, or made you feel good about what you guys do over there?
And I think there's, you put me on the spot with that one. I'll think about it. I'll think about it real quick. But I'm looking at these pictures because I haven't really talked about the Dunlap Football Center.
Yeah, we need to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm good on time if y'all are. But this thing is awesome. It's 150,000 square feet. It has so many things in it, and they're all necessary. I know Michael, like when he describes it, he talks about bells and whistles. There's no frills in there, but that doesn't mean it's not nice. It is gorgeous inside. It's very functional. But from a recruiting standpoint, kids want to know, where am I going to be? Because that's where they're going to spend most of their time. how am I going to get trained right here? I mean, you can see it, and it builds a community, especially in this day and age with the way that now we're coming out of that with the house settlement and the transfer portal, but building a team, facilities like this matter because the kids spend so much time together in here, but it gives our coaches tools that they haven't had before to teach the game. Now, 25 years ago, didn't have those, and we won. I get all that, but at the same time, the world is different, and so when you recruit, things like this matter. It's going to be a great facility. It's going to be finished, right around the beginning of football season, and we're going to. Not sure when we're going to exactly have the grand opening and when the team will move in, but it'll be at the during football. But it's a fantastic facility that I know our coaches are excited about, and our players, and obviously the boosters that have helped fund it. We really appreciate because it's really a cool thing. The picture right there, the way the weight room is at the very end of that. They've connected it to the indoor facility, and so from a strength training standpoint, they got roll-up doors. You can be in the weight room and then run right into the indoor facility. So from a strength training perspective, you can do so many more things. As far as funny stories, I probably got more, and I'm drawing a blank as we talk about it. But I would tell you, almost every day we've got stories of, just when you meet people and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you knew that person, and whatever. But I probably would go back to Corvallis when we're sitting there, and I think it was on the second game, and where I was standing to watch the game was in right field, kind of under a facility there because I was trying to get away from the sun, and I took a picture in that in that corner of the right field, and there were just black and orange pictures, and I found one guy standing there with Florida State gear on, and I zero in on it. And I tweeted it, and I said, "Does anybody know this guy?" And
I saw that tweet.
Yeah, it was amazing the responses. So, I had a ticket in the Florida State section, and so I went over in between innings and gave him a ticket, and found out he's an assistant rowing coach at the University of Washington, but went to Florida State. And to me, it just cool. He was like, "You're really going to give me a ticket?" I'm like, "Dude, we're Noles. Come over here and sit with the Noles or this right field." But he was there to support baseball because he loves Florida State baseball. And I'm like, great. So I just love stories like that where you just get people and kind of surprise them a little bit. And, so we've texted since, and, hopefully he'll come back for a game. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Are there going to be opportunities for people to tour the football only facility?
Yeah, we'll have that once we get more closer to the opening, where we'll have some tours set up, and obviously during the season maybe a little bit limited because once football but there will be, because we want everybody to see it, and it's going to be a cool thing. So
I'm looking forward to that. You mentioned house and NIL and settlements and how we're coming out of that, and what is your take on we've got the SCORE Act that is supposedly going to be debated. So tell us about that.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you, every day something's going to be added, right? Lawsuits. But just as a general thing, the house settlement, I think, is a great thing. Name, image, and likeness for student athletes. I think everybody that works in athletics is for the student athletes being able to their name, image, and likeness. We want them to be able to profit off that. What's happened in the last couple of years? I don't know anybody that's liked, just to be honest with you, because that's not really what it's been. It's been more of a free-for-all and wild, wild west type thing. And that's just been hard for everybody. It's hard for coaches. It's hard to build rosters. The transfer portal makes it very difficult because, and I think several coaches nationally talked about kids were getting recruited on rosters before they were in the portal. And so the thing I do like about the house settlement is it gives every school an equal number across the board that they can go up to. They don't have to, but 20.5 is the number. And then each school decides who is going to participate in that program. And, obviously from a recruiting standpoint, it's all related back to the marketability and the revenue, which, is eyeballs. And so, the way the house settlement came down, it was about 75% football, 15% men's basketball, 5% women's basketball, and then 5% everyone else. And every school's going to do that a little bit different. The interesting part for me is on the transfer portal, it does, I think it will slow down the transfer portal for people just to get in it, because if they are receiving some form of rev share, the new school has to pay the old school for that, and then they've got to sign a deal, and it all counts against your cap. So I don't see the free spending related or continuing the way it was. And then the last part of it is that the true marketing deals, which can happen, those are going to be monitored through a system that's modeled after the NFL. And so those deals have to be proven to be market correct and not just made up number. And so I do think for all of us, that grew up in a different time to watch college athletics, it'll get, again, it's a new norm, but it gets us into a place now where you feel like, man, we're back to where, hey, I want to go to Florida State. I'm going to be at Florida State. And now we're going to build a program at Florida State. And that's what we're after, I think, all across college athletics, while maintaining that, yeah, kids, they need to be able to profit off name, image, and likeness, but within a system.
Yeah, I agree. And that brings me to a take. It was a terrible take by Urban Meyer the other day about, FSU's structure on how they're doing this, when in reality, FSU's still offering real money. The $20.5 million is direct athletic payments. Some recruits, I think, will even more prefer the structure, predictability, and benefits, like medical coverage, for instance. And then even in his opinion, being that this is some kind of we're out here in left field. No, this is a paradigm shift where a lot of schools' deals are going towards the structure in which Florida State's is anyway. So critics may call it, different or completely out there, but I think if FSU, continues to do things the way we have been with these new structures, I think it's offers flexibility, but also more structure for the student athlete, and gives them some real benefits in there.
Yeah. I would, Ryan, I'm joking with you because I can be very sarcastic. You lost me when you said Urban Meyer, so I didn't hear after that.
Yeah. I saw you take a nap there as soon as you said the name. He's kind of dozing off.
I'm kidding. Look, a great coach, and obviously won when he coached, and a lot of respect for what he did there. But in terms of this, everybody needs to pay attention to their own house and do their own thing for them. And I would say go back to the Orange Bowl when we played Georgia. We had different structure of the way that the NIL was done. Georgia had a different structure, and you kind of saw what happened at the Orange Bowl. And I think everybody learned across the country that those contracts need to be different. They can't just be here, let's have it. There are a lot of people put time, thought, and effort into the way to do this. That helps the kids, but also got to protect and help Florida State too. So, everybody's, again, they're open to their opinion, but I would say that what we're doing, we all are for Florida State, and we want the best for Florida State. And that's kind of what I would end with on that part.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, we kind of equate it to, the pendulum was way over here for forever, where, the student athletes were, doing the work, but not really they're getting the benefit of going to school, yes, and all that, but they were not benefiting from their NIL. Now it's swung completely the other way, and people are, I don't want to say used to that already, which is crazy, but what Florida State's trying to do is find that middle ground, I think, and to make sure, yes, the kids are going to benefit, but the school also has to benefit, right? The program, the university has to be in a stable spot too. We can't always be wondering what tomorrow's going to bring.
Yeah, and you see nationally where some kids have gotten out of their deals, and there's some lawsuits going on, and clearly we don't want to get in that space. We just want to be in the expectations up front. Everybody's good, and the old adage of everybody's happy till they're not is always true, but we're trying to mitigate that the best we can with just clear expectations. So again, we're going to do the best for Florida State. I know specifically, Mike Norvell's doing that. Luke Laux will do that. Brooke Wyckoff will do that. Link Jarrett. Coach Lonnie. All of our coaches, Brian Pinsky, they're all Florida State, the best for Florida State, and let's go compete. And so,
what a group.
Yeah, it's great coaches. I mean, that's one thing, Coach Michael has done a great job with some
Yeah.
coaches that are already here, but also assembling new coaches. He's done a great job of hiring coaches. So,
We actually have a small connection. It's a very small one, but
Very small.
Coach Stockstill, Vince and I have worked with his brother Jeff Stockstill, who was a
no
wide
way.
receiver at Clemson, and both of us worked with him for several years. Vince is still working with him.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Jeff had given me Rick's number. He said, "Just call him. Just call him." I said, "I'm not going to call him out of the blue, you know." So I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the introduction. Jeff to introduce me to him, and then I'll give him a call. But
Well, knowing
yeah,
coach, he wouldn't mind if you called him because he's
yeah,
just that kind of guy. But
Yeah.
he's a great person.
Yep.
Back to what you were talking about, the overcorrection. When I worked, for a law firm that was a sports agency in my past, and one of the things we always talked about that when coaches got fired, athletic directors and universities said, "Well, we had steak, now we want chicken."
right.
And it's a complete opposite. And back to what you said, Vince, I think it's true. We're not trying to go opposite. We're like, hey, we need to fix something. Let's get to where okay, that's where we need to be right here. Doesn't mean it's got to be the opposite. And, oftentimes you'll see a player's coach and, we need a disciplinarian. Then, we got to go this way. And that's not really because kids respond to, they know what's genuine. They know what's real. And if you try to sell them something else, that's not going to work. So I think what you said is absolutely correct. We want to do the right thing for Florida State, have the best student athlete experience for every young man or woman that's competing for Florida State. Support our coaches, and that's why again, I'm going to plug Seminole Boosters is what I do every day, which is raise funds. But our purpose is Florida State athletics. That's what we do. Why we do it. I love watching the kids get an opportunity to compete, and then when they graduate, it really changes families' lives. It's not just that kid; it's families. Because a lot of them are first generation college students, and when you
Right.
it's an impact broader than athletics. Obviously, we all want to win, but there's a bigger picture there at play that we really it's cool to see behind the scenes.
From a personal standpoint, I know you said it's FSU athletics, but the boosters, taking the Chiefs to heart and putting together the club for the Chiefs, is an amazing gesture. And I know not a lot of athletic booster clubs kind of embrace the marching band like we do. And I just want to thank you guys for that. I think it was a long time coming, but I'm so glad it's there. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the technology allows for that kind of thing now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
send Chiefs all the time. That's
And
what
Chiefs
we
all
want.
the time. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, it's funny because my family we'll send each other the war chant in the morning, and be like, all right, you got to attack today, and it's just so funny. My kids will send that, but it came from a relationship really with Michael has on campus with the provost and Todd Queen, and we have some meetings with the deans, and we had a lot of questions about the Chiefs traveling, et cetera, and we just wanted to help. And if that's what sports specific giving is, if somebody they care about tennis, give the tennis. If they care about X, give to X. And we talk about it all the time. Donor intent matters, and if people want to give to that, great. And so the marching Chiefs are awesome. As I said, I get goosebumps when I hear them, and if we can help support them any way we can, we will. Again, it's because they're part of what we do on game day, and so back to our purpose, it's what we kind of stick to.
Right.
Florida State athletics.
What is
What other? Go ahead,
what
Ryan.
is Stephen? What is Mr. Stephen Ponder? What are you doing during ACC Media Days coming up? What role do you play in that, if any, at all?
I don't. We've talked about going, and I've gone before and been there. But I really don't have a role in that on media days. Being around the kids and the coaches is awesome because you get to see them and how great they are. That's why one of the reasons why when we do Seminole Boosters on tour and we have student athletes come and then traveling with baseball or basketball or softball, and you get to know the kids outside of the game day. It's phenomenal what kind of human beings they are and how they represent Florida State. That part's really cool. But now we don't have a role in media days. Now, the content that comes from it. Obviously, we read it and consume it, and obviously we want to catch up on everything because that's what everybody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that I find myself in as many conversations, and Vince, you asked this question about, hey, the schedule, fundraising, how do you raise money? I'm in that conversation as much as I am about the actual game itself. And so, Ryan, what I thought you were going to ask me, what do you like on a game day? And I started laughing because I'm like, dude, that is I pace a lot. I walk a lot.
That's what Vince does. Yeah.
But it's nervous energy for me to see people. Sometimes I will slow down. In the second half of a game, I will go sit and try to consume the game. But it depends on, what's happening. If there's somebody there that I need to go talk to, I'll get up and go talk to them. But because most people, when they're watching the ball game, they do not want to talk to me. They want to watch the game just like I do. Right. But, there's times when they're in town, you want to see them. So yeah, I'm all over the place.
Would you be willing to offer your likeness if the college football 26 game wanted to incorporate athletic booster presidents as part of the game?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, I don't know how they would incorporate it, but that'd be funny.
It'd be funny where you get to take on the mantra of the booster president and try to engender more boosters and everything.
Well, I just hope he looks better than Mike Norvell in game, because whoever that man is in the game, it's not
Mike Norvell.
Mike Norvell.
Well, we joke about this, or I do at least. You have to have fun in this. The fact is, obviously, we do fundraise. There's a stereotype around that, the type of how you do it, the old slap on the back and all that stuff. And look, you embrace that. And part of my personality is that I like to have fun. And when I see people, I love to. I saw a guy today here in town, Scott Wilson, that every time I see him, I just smile. I just hugged him. I'm like, hey, dude, what's going on? So there is part of that, but also there's a more fundraising as an art and a science.
Right.
And, there's pieces of it. Vince, when you went off air, I don't know, as a science, I'm not sure I could have come back on if my technology failed, but I just really enjoy the team that we're with at Boosters and athletics, the common goal that we're all trying to do the best for Florida State. And we meet each challenge every day, a little bit different. Right now, the single game sales, we chose, we were going to release some tickets for single game sales, and obviously the Alabama game sold out on a single game basis.
Right.
But there's still opportunities for people to buy season tickets to get to the game, and so that's part of it. So make sure everybody knows you can still buy season tickets and come to the game, but scarcity for tickets is a good thing.
Yes, it is. I tell people all the time at work that just because there's strategy behind your personal interactions does not make them any less genuine.
Right.
So, we all have this circle that we integrate with, but you're also trying to get things done too. So it's not superficial.
Right.
So, you have a strategy, and it's personal and it's genuine. And it's one of the things about this university that I think has been part of the heart of it since the very beginning. What other, I don't know if you want to talk about other things like Bowden Society or any other kind of efforts that are going on, or maybe get our viewers up to speed.
So you want my kind of elevator pitch about what's going on? Yeah, I would say that, look, Seminole Boosters, and I referenced this, when Andy Miller was in this role, I watched it from afar. Ryan, you talked about the bleacher seats in the sun. My first experience with Florida State, and my wife, she will tell this story to this day, that we sat on the east side about row 78, and we got beat 77-17. It was a noon kick. Charlie Ward still scoring. And, we sat there, and my wife looked at me. She goes, I will never come to this stadium again. Right. So, if you want to, say something like that, then watch what God does. And so, that's kind of how it goes. But it's just so interesting when, from a fundraising standpoint, I've watched Seminole Boosters, always admired them. I thought the Chiefs was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And so from a fundraising standpoint, our annual fund is our number one priority. It is the backbone of Florida State athletics. Obviously, most people do that through season ticket purchase, but 60% of our boosters do not buy tickets. I had that backwards. 60% buy tickets, 40% do not. So that's why that market-based strategy for us is so important, that we go find people in Chicago or LA that are like, hey, I don't really come to the games. We're like, we understand that. Just join. And then if you can come to a game, come on back. But our annual fund is number one. Our Bowden Society we created 3 years ago, and it's really a major gifts program that instead of us doing emergency fundraising for every thing that comes down the pipe, we wanted to create a pipeline of major gifts revenue. So Bowden Society is a $50,000 commitment over 5 years. It's not tied to tickets or anything like that. And then it's really about the experience behind the scenes, where we show that group, hey, meet this coach, meet this student athlete, meet each other. The relationships that have formed among Bowden Society members who live in different parts of the country has been pretty cool. And that's why we do the Bowden Society takeovers and the Bowden Society weekends. And then really our third area is the coaches clubs for people who just, hey, I care about X sport. We are never going to stand in the way of someone giving where they want to give. And so that's what we promoted. And it helps our coaches tremendously. It's budget enhancing. And again, it's about 10% of our donor base that does that. But you hear the phrase all the time, but it takes a village. And for us, we want more people under the tent, more people in the village, more people supporting. Because then when we celebrate wins, it's so much more fun to do it together than to do it by yourself. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's kind of the overview of Seminole Boosters. And obviously we've got our planned giving that we just launched, Custodes Lampadas, relaunched rather, that for our future, we need more and more people to tell us, hey, I'm leaving you in our will. We've got an estate plan, et cetera. So that's why the gold standard that we promote at the football game last year for people who are chief donors and Bowden Society members and have a Custodes Lampadas gift, we call that the gold standard of giving for Florida State athletics. And, it's aspirational for some. And we want to recognize those folks because they are supporting in a great way. And it doesn't take anything away from someone that's giving at a different amount. We want them to know, and that's part, again, going back to the market strategy, want them to know, call your person and let's talk.
Yeah. That's great. There's just a lot of options for people to give. And like you said, no dollar amount is too small. And you can find the thing that you're passionate about and you can give to that. You really have provided the options for people to do that. Ryan, you want to put a few comments up here? There's some questions too.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to say,
have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, tons of people are just happy to have you on the show. I will echo a few people's comments in here with a generalized sentiment of, hey, I don't mind relocating my seats and giving more. Just winking a nod that brighter futures are ahead for where we'll be in greener pastures. I think that you know what I'm saying there.
I do, and look, I can tell you nobody's working harder on that than our coaches and our student athletes. But yeah, we do understand that's part of the equation, and don't take that lightly because nobody wants to go through that again. Nobody does, coaches, anybody. So we're all in agreement that that's where we're heading and why we are doing what we're doing with the stadium.
That was about 6 different people's comments around, for some reason, the year 2027, 2028 is a big popular comment in our comment section. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got here from Brett Taylor. It says, Stephen and everyone else associated with FSU athletics deserves a great applause for being proactive and visionary in handling the challenging or changing landscape of all of this. Agreed. Thank you, Brett Taylor. Sporadics Media. I think you might know Chris Frazier. This is his account here. Good evening, Mr. Ponder. Hope you and your boss Sloan and 2 sons, Stetson and Stratton, are doing well and are having a Noel-tastic day. Really appreciate all the hard work you do for FSU.
That's Noel-tastic. I like it. That's good.
Noel-tastic. So you were saying, I want to go back. I keep doing this, but you were saying getting beat 77-17. And Charlie Ward was playing. you were at NC State at the time. Is that okay?
I think it was '93. I think it was the '93 national championship year, because I think the next time we came down, it was 62-3. We got beat. And so it was rough.
NC State had some get back, though, I will say.
Yeah, but and I get that question a lot, because obviously that's where I went to school, and I love the relationships of everybody that I worked with there, and the donors there, et cetera. But obviously we play on game day. I mean, I'm go Noles. So
that's right. Is there a rumor that you've heard either to yourself or on social media that you're like, yeah, that's ridiculous? Something about the stadium or the facility or the conference or anything that you've heard that you're like, no, we need to squash that?
Well, there are a lot of those that happen. Just like I talked about with the stadium project, where people, again, they heard something and then posted and said, hey, it cost, I'm making up the number, they said it's $100,000 a seat to keep my seats in Doak. And we're like, no, that's not right. But I would say the one most recently was around, I guess it was around April Fool's, where there was this thing, it looked very official, that, hey, press release, Doak's not going to be done, we're going to play Alabama in Orlando. Not true, no basis for it. And it created a lot of buzz around it, and we just kind of like, what? So yeah, stuff like that. I get a text every now and then, somebody will say, well, the other day, somebody announced that Charlie Ward was going to be the new general manager for Florida State football. And I was like, he's head coach at FAMU in basketball.
Yeah.
Doing that. I don't think he's doing both. So that's what he's doing. So yeah, those happen, but that's just part of it now with social media.
Well, I can speak for the world that says we are happy you're not going to Camping World Stadium to play Alabama. Yeah. I've been there and done that against Ole Miss. I think it was 2016 or something like that. And that stadium could use some renovations, much like the West Side end zone. The West Side stands in Doak Campbell. So appreciate that's a funny one though. I can't imagine you getting a call from Camping World and be like, "Are you guys coming here?"
Yeah, that's right. Like, what's going on? Yeah. No. Yeah. No, but it's, the thing that I will never, I guess, take for granted is the passion. The passion of Florida State fans. I love the, regardless of how someone feels on a subject, behind it is passion. And so, I just love the passion. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree. Doesn't mean they're going to like what I say, but I can appreciate the passion.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. 7:58. Oh, we're right on time here. Stephen, thank you so much for your time tonight. You're very generous. We're obviously not the biggest outlet that's out there, but you giving of your time is not lost on me. So thank you so much.
I also want to throw this up there for Stephen Ponder. Someone just gave $20.25. MCAT. Doing a great job, Stephen Ponder. We need a pick together this year. I'll comb my hair. John Black, Captain John Black.
Yeah, this is Captain John Black. He'll comb his hair. He's probably wearing his gold lame outfit.
Oh, it's hilarious.
With the gold wig.
Hilarious.
So
that's good.
I meant to tell you before we went on air and before I got kicked off is that if you wouldn't mind, and this is a little production stuff, when we're done here, Stephen, if you would just leave your connected, you can turn off your camera or whatever. Sure. So I want to upload your video. So I'm sorry for our viewers having to hear that production stuff, but
no, that's fine.
But that would be great. And anytime you want to get a word out on something, I want to offer us up. Let us know, and we will push that out. Anything that we can do to help the momentum, help the passion, help get the word out, we would love to do it.
Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate y'all having me on, and appreciate what you do. And like I said, y'all are part of it. It takes a village. So we keep carrying the great message and doing it, the great things that you're doing.
Thank you, Stephen. Have a great night. Go Noles.
Go Noles. Appreciate it, y'all.
Noles. What a great show. What a great guest. And Vince, I was the one trying to be more conscious of time, but you know what? Mr. Ponder said, I got all day. Let's go. And I'm all for it.
He's all Nole, and he is, his passion, is deep. And what he was talking about how his personality is, shake a hand, pat somebody on the back, big smiles. I mean, that's the way he is. I can vouch for that. I really, met him, formally for the first time a couple years ago. And my wife and I were going to the booster event here in Jacksonville, and we were waiting outside before they let everybody in. And he was just walking by, and I was sitting down. And you know me, Ryan, I'm kind of a get up and talk to people type of person too. But I was a little bit, I was kind of in my own world there, and he came up to me, and we spent the next 20 minutes just shooting the breeze on whatever. So anyway, that's the way he is, and I'm not, and because of that, I am not surprised at the amount of success that the Seminole Boosters are having under his leadership, and I know he will defer it to the team, right? He will, and they're all doing a great job too. I will shout out my booster local person here, Kyle. Good to see you all the time that I see you, Kyle. They just have a lot of positive things going in their direction.
I don't know why I find this funny, but Vince, because he left, and you told him to leave it up, and my man put his trash, because he left the camera rolling in his office, but my man grabbed his trash can, put it on the outside of his office, closed the door, and turned off the lights, and we just got. It's like the ghost of Stephen Ponder.
Yeah, like I've got an Arlo camera looking in his office right now, so I'll be able to tell if anybody comes in to try to steal that Bobby Bowden painting on his wall, which is awesome. But shout out to him also for leaving it up and running so we can get the video.
Absolutely, but what a great show, huh?
Oh man, when I got kicked off, because I did that test stream today, and then
you went on the iPad and it got kicked.
Yeah, and I went on the iPad immediately. I had the iPad ready to go, and that went nutso. So you know what I did? Unfortunately, I downloaded Edge, and I've been on Edge the whole time. So typically Microsoft is not going to do me right here, but Edge has been working flawlessly since
what did I tell you,
back
Vince?
on. I know. So let's talk about what's happening next week, Ryan.
No, you set it up. I want you to tell people.
Okay.
It's your thing, man.
Next week, people, we are on a tear here. Last week we had Jason Watkins of Hall of Fame college football to come on and talk with us about Jaden O'Neal. So if you are following recruiting at all, and even if you're following it a little bit, and you want to know about the most recent quarterback commit that we got, go back and watch last week's show, because the guest we had on is very personally connected to his family and him and his whole entourage. So go watch that show. Tonight, Stephen Ponder, president, CEO of the Boosters. What a great guy. And next week, we've got the voice of the Seminoles, Jeff Culhane, coming on the show. So as we're getting closer to the season, we're going to bring the energy, and no better way to do that than to bring Jeff Culhane on the show next week.
And then the week after that, Bobby Bowden's Ghost. Yeah, that's where we're trending towards. It's like we're on the climb on guests. We're just.
Yeah, we are on the climb on guests. I have not reached out to the other person yet for the week following that. I'm going to do that probably here in a moment. Hopefully we can get the person that I want to get on the week following after Jeff, and we're gonna just full steam ahead here with. I will just say, no inside info,
no problem,
no contacts, no problem. Not tonight, people. Captain John Black was in the chat tonight. Captain John Black, thank you for everything, always, but thank you also for watching tonight. And remember, if you're looking for some charter fishing in Panama City Beach area, give Captain John Black a call. Tell him Vincent Ryan sent you, and he will make sure you catch a few more fish than the other people on the charter. And so, Ryan, we're gonna roll this thing out.
Screw ESPN eternally, guys, forevermore, especially with not letting Corso come home for final game day. Shame on you guys. And Vince,
Yeah, send Chiefs all the damn time. And as Stephen Ponder said, and I brought up, there's a Chiefs Coaches Club. So if you want to send Chiefs all the damn time, go to the booster page, go to the Coaches Clubs, find the Chiefs, and donate.
And
Go
go
Noles.
Noles.
Good night,